This is iRacing.
Hallowed halls of Watkins, Glen are an all-time classic for stock car and sports car racing, but they bring something entirely different to Formula style racing. How about something that feels a bit more like a super speedway? You're going to find out when the low-powered skippies hit the track here today on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Howie Burrows. I'm joined by Sagar Bakshi, directed by Christian DePlay, with cameras by Dougie Beard. And in round 8 of this championship, this is one of the most unusual tracks you'll see in these cars.
Absolutely. This is going to be phenomenal to see amazing drivers go around such an iconic track that is Watkins Glen. So many professional race car drivers got their starts in Skippy. We have AJ Allmendinger, Marco Andretti, Juan Pablo Montoya, Jeff Gordon even, to name just a few. So these cars are well adapted to suit Watkins Glen and will prove who is the top of the charts as well.
We have a 4.2k iRacing split on a very popular time slot today. This is a car track combo that people really flock to in these cars, and it is going to be quite like anything else you've ever seen on this circuit. Very draft dependent cars going to take this cut track fast, and they're going to take it hard. Let's take a look at the track details.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long time.
Looking at the Watkins Glen circuit, folks, we're headed to nowhere else but the U.S. of A. Watkins Glen, New York, in the United States. Of course, this is the boot configuration. Watkins Glen has historic origins. The first race was held in 1948 and was a street race on public roads, making it one of the earliest road racing venues in the United States. A track length of 3.4 miles or 5.5 kilometers long. It's been founded since 1956, unchanged since 71. We've got 11 corners, 6 to the left, 5 to the right, with 141 feet or 42 meters of elevation change. Watkins Glen has famous corners. The track features several iconic ones, such as the S's, a fast, flowy curve that challenges drivers and thrills spectators, as well as the iconic, as namesake, the boot. Turns 6, 7, 8, and 9 coming down through the bottom of the hill of the chute and plummeting your way all the way through turn 11. This is gonna be an amazing time, Howie.
A short sprint race on the road in these cars around here, and the rules are very much the same as they often are. We're going to be ready 12 laps around Watkins Glen today, with open setups available for drivers, although there's very little to play with. Many drivers will stick with a very similar trim on the track. If you make a mistake, you do get the fast repair available for you, but you are going to want to stick with the pack on the track today, and as a result, you lose that, and it's going to be very hard to make it back. 17x disqualification, quite hard to reach on a track like this without too many official iRacing off tracks, but the cars run extraordinarily close around here very often.
Absolutely true. And let's give some details about the race. Round 8 of 12 weeks. This is going to be a 12 lap, a very short event. Open setups, 1 spare car will be available. Standing start for the drivers. The Skip Barber 2000 features a 150 horsepower 4-cylinder Dodge engine. This little 2-liter single overhead cam power plant is mated to a 5-speed sequential gearbox. The resulting power to weight ratio results in speeds of up to 135 miles per hour. Acceleration from a standstill to 0 to 60, 4.5 seconds, and through 100 miles per hour in less than 10 seconds flat. Expect them to get up to 100 miles per hour coming down this short straightaway leading down and towards turn 1. And as you mentioned a few times, Howie, slipstream is going to be very, very effective through the S's.
17 cars have made our top split today. The race has split down the middle with a 4.2k SOF cut, so a very high one, full of some classic drivers to the series in the long run. The very, very low power of the cars around there, you mentioned a very low top speed, so means that these cars will have to stick with each other in a draft train quite a lot in order to get around. You're really not making up for lost time. Of course, the track recently given its a visual overhaul, and that includes some brutal new curves. There's a big sausage up on the inside of the bus stop, which we have because we're running the classic sports car boot layout, where once you're done with the cut track, you take a left-hand turn here, as Marcus Domer is demonstrating for us, and into the slower boot section. This is very much where you have to keep your car to yourself. A few downhill turns, you have to test your braking ability, but none quite as much as the uphill heel coming back out of it. It's a slow climb up towards another long straight. But the next most brutal corner comes 2 from now. Another relatively long straight, relatively by the standards of the circuit. A very wide, open right-hander. You can go off the track more than you expect here, especially in a car that can carry the momentum. And then leaving the boot, this corner can be a bugbear for many. Very, very tricky, a lot tighter than you expect. Falls away from you. If you can make it there, you're out onto the rest of the track.
Beautiful sequence of events and great dictation of what the drivers are looking at. Coming in towards turn 11 now, it's going to be a fast right-hander and making your way all the way out to the blue wall, the Smurf walls, as it were, coming down the start-finish straightaway, and Marcus Dorner puts down a 209.461. That'll be his last lap, fast lap, good enough for first position and the number 4.
Laps are about to come flying through pretty quick for our number 1 driver in the lobby. Is Vlado Tito, seen plenty of him on the field in his white car, which often comes loaded with motivational quote on inside. I don't think this lap's going to be extraordinarily fast looking at the data I have. He might have been setting up and prepping for the second. Maybe I'm about to get proven horribly wrong. I am, because it was the fastest on the field, and second fastest behind Jeff Randall in first position. It's a 209.392. So a few more laps yet to finish that. That's Philip Burks, our number 2 car. Paul Smithhurst got an illegal first lap, so the Gerard Perel and Franco Alberti. And now we're witnessing the run up the hill. This is where you're going to really get runs. These are likely to say only hard, never dirty. This guy, and he will certainly race very, very hard. And the bus stop on these cars in this layout, you really don't want to scrub speed, because this is a momentum car.
Oh, the Big Sen coming through the bus stop chicane, getting a little squirrely, carrying that momentum that you talked about. And speaking of carrying momentum, the top 4 drivers separated by less than 1/10 a second. I'll say that one more time. The top 4 drivers are separated by less than 1/10 of a second. We have to look all the way down to 10th position to even talk about 1 second of a gap. The drivers are absolutely on it right now, and the pace is phenomenal. These drivers are well equipped to battle each other out, and they're going to be looking forward to the race for sure. 1 minute and 37 seconds remaining on the clock, folks, and the drivers are well equipped to put down some amazing lap times. Now, Howie, tell me a little bit about the Skippies. You said that we're going to get a lot of drafting in play coming up through the S's. Now, the times that are coming in are being set. Raw comes in with a time of a 208.959, shakes up the order just a little bit. Randall finds P2, Martinez in P3. Back to my question, though. How many overtakes do you believe that we're going to see? Can the Skippies go wheel to wheel safely around a track like Watkins Glen?
In terms of lead changes, I'm sure you're going to see a lot, but this is very much one of those races as Vlado Tito sets the third fastest lap on the road. This is one of those circuits where really it's not about being in first the whole time, because you're not going to get away from people. It's about being close enough and possibly in second or third by the right time in order to make the right moves with the field. There's going to be passing as people are going to get little runs on each other. You don't get comedic runs, but you do get enough that you're not going to lift. And then you want to stick with them. You don't want to do anything outrageous. You want to make sure that you survive all the way through to the end of the race. But very often, these cars, they're very, very slippy. They live on the edge of control, and that can lead to overstepping that line just a little and causing a bit of a field killer. I've seen them here before in these cars. I'm hoping it doesn't happen again too quickly for us.
Very interesting. So more akin to some MX5 racing, barring the chrome horn, hopefully not being used here tonight in the Skip Barber series. This will be a very interesting race for sure, and the drivers are getting gridded in just a few moments' time. I'm very looking forward to this. Howie, take us through the starting grid.
Raul Roses Gardia lines up on pole next to Jeff Randall in P2, and then it's Vlado Tito and Ricardo Espinala Martinez on row 2. Philip Burks next to Gareth Messam in 5th and 6th, and it's Marcus Dorner and Paul Smith out along with Mike Val Alice and Gerard Boral in 9th and 10th. I'll leave you with the rest.
Coming up in 11th position and 12th, we're going to have Xavier Sanchez next to Gabriel Herrero. German Suarez in row 7 next to Javier Gomez de Cos. Rafael Rogers in 15th alongside Franco Alberti and Jose Pina, not setting a time in row 9. Man, oh man, this is going to be an exciting 12-lap sprint race around Watkins Glen, Howie.
Expect to see faster lap times than what you've seen come out in qualifying. Hit the gate quite quickly. You need to be with that lead pack by the end in order to be in there with a chance. And does that mean being in first, second, or third? Well, drivers are going to spend 11 laps exploring, and in the final one, full sending. Only 25 minutes of running on the track, but that means every last second counts out here. Only 2 left to grid, and then we'll get this field running the boot layout on the cup layout there at iRacing. Have expanded the track limits in the first turn. You might still see some people slightly over the line, but still it's the edge of that curbing, so you can't use all of the space. Things are very much like you're used to. Only 1 left to join this grid. Drivers wishing themselves good luck up and down the field, and they might need it to get through this pack. All the cars are on the grid, the lights are on, and in just any second now, we are green. Good launch from every driver, but I know it's Martinez diving to the inside quite early, trying to cover off a battle. Gareth Messam's done the same on the inside line, but otherwise the top 4 have come out single file out of the first turn, and Gareth Messam isn't quite able to pull alongside Philip Burke. Here comes the big run now up the S's, and it's really going to compress up near that front. Jeff Randall almost in the wall, but he's the one with the faster run this time. There's enough space to make cars 4 wide here on paper, but actually Martinez on the right-hand side isn't going to have that spot. The rest are going to compress now. Absolute gaggle entering the bus stop. Hope you can slow down in time. Garrett, they just about have. Martinez holds out on that P3, but that's very much how close these cars are going to run for the entire race until there's contact. I see a tiny bit further back in the field, but everyone's through in one piece.
Jeff Randall with a beautiful send at the bus stop chicane made that one work the hard way on the opening lap. But like you said earlier, it's not exactly being out in first because you're not going to run away from the grid behind you unless there's any sort of contact. 3 wide going down in towards the toe for just a brief moment in time. Mike Van Alas going side by side now, and this is going to be a huge challenge coming up into the heel. Who's going to break first? Later on, the brakes will be key if you're going to go the long way around the outside. Single file order of operations further up the field. Whoa, there's a big wiggle from the number 7 car behind the 12. And it's all looking pretty neat and tidy on this opening lap, and the swarm of bumblebees is on the attack.
Little taps are going to be a fact of life here, but we hope you can keep the car pointed in one direction, and that should help you. Stick with the rest, as there's so many opportunities to get good runs around here. And see how good the runs are down this start-finish straight. It's a little shorter than the one up the hill. Well, you don't really want to send it dramatically into the first turn, but there is space if you're brave enough. I think every driver's going to choose to stay in line. This makes a pack of 5 most compressed up at the front. And Gareth Messam and Marcus Dormer definitely are in play. Mike Van Alst isn't. So drivers behind him might want to try and find a way past or work with him. Up the hill, we're going to start fanning out again. This is on board Paul Roches-Gardia's camera, as there is another set of room for 4, but no one's going all the way wide. They duck heavily into the inside of the track. I think Jeff Randall might have the advantage here again, side by side with Vlado Tito, 3 wide to enter the bus stop. No one's giving up, no one's giving in. Martinez on the inside takes a jump on the curb a bit too far though, and he's going to lose out places.
Wow, 3 wide going into the bus stop chicane. Not many series can you do that and still walk away with your lives. These drivers are looking pretty well equipped to handle anything that's been thrown at them, especially driving on lines that are not ideal for you. A lot of drivers in racing series I see will practice hot lapping time and time again, but now driving offline, driving where you've never driven before, when you're going wheel to wheel with someone and not causing a collision is super important. And it looks like these drivers at the front of the grid are well equipped to do just that. On board with Marcus Droner right now as he challenges the car in front. That'll be Martinez, but he backs out earlier before the heel and just wants to run single file line because he's seen how many positions can be made or lost with one little overtaking opportunity. He's got to pick wisely going forward, waiting for a mistake, waiting for that one opportunity to strike, and then he can work his way forward, dipping out of the slipstream a little bit, just having a look at the inside line, trying to sell a dummy, but you have to wake up a little bit earlier in the morning to get one past Martinez.
Eventually, I think some of these positions might be given up or traded back and forth. I describe a race here as a bit like a super speedway race, which is a very unusual thing to say for a track that doesn't have much banking and has plenty of right turns. But the way you race is actually very, very similar. You just gotta have patience. Mike Van Aert has really failed to make up big ground, and Paul Smithhurst is going to have to make the pass and then hope that maybe he can work with others to try and get up this road. If you work together, you can make up this gap, but if you try going 3 wide up the hill, it just might not quite work as well for you. The lead pack have their first crash. Philip Burke has been caught and spun. Looks like a solo crash for now. He's off the side of the track. He is damaged on the front. Those wings don't do a huge amount, but that's not going to help him. Big incident coming up the hill through the S's. It did look like a solo incident, but we're going to keep an eye on the rest of the field to see if there's any other drivers involved missing some body parts as well. That's a big look from the number 10 on the 9 up the inside, coming down in towards the chute, but the inside line's going to turn to the outside for the following corner. The number 10's going to have to cover off the number 9 quick, fast, in a hurry. Will they get the move done and dusted? It is, and the number 9 falls back behind the number 4 for just a brief moment in time, but the overspeed doesn't work out in their favor, and it looks like that will be done and dusted between them. Ricardo Espinela Martinez holds on to the fastest lap of the race. He was in clear air for a majority of that lap and was able to use the slipstream to his advantage.
Let's get a replay of that incident that just took place, Howie.
So there was another incident that happened on the track very similarly. Paul Smithhurst also dropped down the track by a self-spin, but that's Philip Burke's way out. Just one tap when the cars run a little bit too close, and that's you out of that lead pack. He is barely on the back of Paul Smithhurst. They're going to have to work quite hard to catch just to make up further positions. That takes one out of the pack. I'm kind of happy we don't have a big one quite yet. Lap 4 out of 12 begins. I thought I was unable to count, and there it goes. Just took a second for me. That makes 6 cars in this pack, and at first it's going to be trading back and forth. Typically drivers are trying to learn where and when they need to be on those later laps. Here's on board Jeff Randall's car as Paul Rosas Gardia is going to make a move to the outside. On the third lane, Vlado Tito doesn't quite have the run to get it done, and Gareth Messam takes up the middle, a little bit checked up by the one in front, but it seems like that inside up the hill has the least momentum. Jeff hits the bump that's been recently added, gets away with it. That could have been a bit of a horrible disaster. He slots back in line for now. That is the most pivotal turn on this track, and that is going to decide everything come the end.
100%, and the drivers that are in the lead of this race right now may not be the drivers in the lead come the checkered flag, but we're taking you from green to checkered here at GSRC and watching all the action as that number 4 of Dorner gets really squirrely coming down in towards the toe of the boot. And man, oh man, that could have been another big moment that we are about to witness, but the drivers are performing well above their weight class right now. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Biggest gainer right now will be Messam with 4 positions gained alongside Sanchez, 4 positions gained. So Messam at the front of the pack in second place currently, running very, very well, but using the slipstream to their advantage, trying to hold on to P2 at the very least.
That little area you saw, that little wobble, is sort of the result of one person in line checking up and leading to another, check up and leading to another. That's just Jeff Randall slipping the car. Here's a replay from Paul Smithhurst. There may have been a little bit of drama out there in the back. He's already self-spun once, sending it very, very hard into the bus stop, but that one's actual contact. Car's been sent down and around by the 12. And Mike Van Alst is still trying to lead this pack to glory. Meanwhile, drivers in the first pack are saying on the voice chat, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight. Now there's separation. Jeff Randall's checkup kills momentum. If you lose any momentum in this car, suddenly you're just left out for nothing in a race like this.
Oh man, this is absolutely phenomenal stuff. We're gonna go 3 wide at the top of the key here, folks. Battle between Tito Messam and Gardia, looking like they want to go 3 wide into the bus stop chicane, but no, they are going to work together, single file being the order of operation. Like you said, the drivers in voice chat saying, hey, let's not fight just yet. Let's build a bit of a bigger gap and escape the cars behind some of the slower drivers that can't quite keep up with us in the qualifying run, or some of the drivers that have dropped out, and then we can battle when we get closer to the 12 lap marker. But lap 5 underway currently, the drivers at the front of the grid separated by just 0.3 of the second. Tito, Messam, Gardia, Dorner, Martinez, Randall, Alast, Herrero, Sanchez, and Suarez rounding out your top 10 currently, and this is going to be so good. I am so glad I'm here for Skip Barber Racing School and GSRC. This Skip Barber has definitely provided us with a ton of excitement, and the overtakes are not going to stop just yet.
It's such a nostalgia trip for me. I remember when I was a D-Road driver and I was told this was the way up, and I don't think I ever really got a good grip on them before I took time away from iRacing and came back to a whole different world ahead of me, thanks to cars like the F4. But there's still just something that really, really draws you into these cars. I've heard they're pretty good in the rain as well. I heard a talk on the mic of someone, it may have been Martinez, but I don't want to put words in someone's mouth here, saying, push, push, push. Are we trying to encourage some bump drafting down the straight. These cars can barely do it, and it's very risky and dangerous, but that gap is 1.7 seconds, so they sort of have to get something done. Tito's running the fastest. You're going to start seeing natural separation where it's all started from just one slip by Jeff Randall. He slipped in the exit of a turn, and suddenly a whole set of drivers just bogged the whole way back. We go up the hill again. There's going to be no need for 4 wide with 3. I'm still surprised drivers holding it to the inside, but Paul Rocha's Gardia is checked up behind Valo Tito, then jumps to the outside with Gareth Messam. You gotta have a buddy to get down this straight quickly, because doing it alone is like having a parachute taped to the back of the car. Yes, you can make it back, but if you're there on the last lap and you don't have a friend, you're in big trouble.
Man, some of these cars are on an island by themselves, but most of these drivers still in a good pack battle. This is the battle for 8th and further back. Sanchez leads the run of things currently in front of Alas, Herrero, Borrell, Suarez, Smithhurst, Alberti currently running on that island by himself, and so is Smithhurst with about 5 and 3 seconds back respectively. And now this is going to be all up to the drivers to determine when they want to make their overtakes. They know they either need to work together to try to catch back up to the front pack, or they can battle it out amongst themselves. If Martinez is right in calling that the drivers need to push, he can't really be going for overtakes unless it's into the bus stop chicane to basically give that drafting effect back. He's basically like a Mother Goose overtaking the car behind to take the draft, the headwind, and give the drafting to the next car behind. And then they're going to keep on Mother Goosing each other over and over again. That's a coined phrase by Sagar Bakshi, by the way, Mother Goosing it.
It's good to get to know more of the isms of more of the commentators in my world. So I'll take that one. I'll add it to the memory books. It was a good lap. Most of last lap was quite good for Jeff Randall, and then all of a sudden it just sort of petered out, and now he's even lost cars behind him, and he's just sort of running in his own bubble. That's a replay from Jose Pinto, who now has a meatball flag after just losing it heading up the S's. I know there was a bit of a slip from Marcus Dorner in the last corner, and that has led to this big gap developing behind. These cars have no downforce. Ignore the wings, they're there for show, which means that they often will just slide their way through corners for speed. Another tour down the start finish on the halfway mark of this race. Valo Tito is the one to take advantage this time. I'm going to turn up the intensity on these battles as their intensity increases and they build up more, because a lot of this is going through the motions, but really doing a lot of learning about other drivers and learning about how they're going to drive, and then really putting on the power in the last couple of laps. These races are like a pressure cooker. They build and they build and they build, and you hope they don't explode and ruin your dinner.
You're absolutely right. One of the best things about racing in a series like this is you get to learn from other drivers. You get to learn their lines, you get to learn their quirks, you get to learn how to overtake very effectively. I love Specs Series racing because it provides so much insight to how to drive successfully in these same cars or equal machinery as the car in front of you. The overtakes have to come from a lot longer back as Sanchez gets by Alas here coming down into the heel, it looks like. Yes, this is going to be the battle for the 6 and the number 12 currently going side by side one more time for good measure. But you get to learn so much about good racecraft. MX-5s as well being a great staple of the learning curve. So many professional drivers started their careers driving MX-5 Cup cars and worked their way into the sports car series, much like the iRacing platform allows you to drive a spec series car before you could decide to drive GT3s or the hypercar category.
Of course, with the split of the Formula license, these cars have sort of taken a bit of a wayside move to the F4 cars I've alluded to earlier, and the Formula Ford has very much taken their place on the development. But I do hear rumours that iRacing was started because this was John Henry's favourite car and he wanted to drive it virtually. So, you know, don't say there isn't love in the heart. Here is the closest battle by far, and I think they've decided they're not catching up to anyone at all. They're having their race, and they're taking it. Up front on lead pack run through the bus stop, but on our main camera, we are going 3 wide with 2 extra cars in tow. Mike Van Alas, he's not catching that field, but he's got a teammate, Xavier Sanchez, in the same car design, working with him around the track. They got a little bit more peaceful as they entered the bus stop, but keeping an eye here on Gabriel Herrera and maybe whether he'll try to stick it up the middle. That would have been a tight place to go. But these guys are going to be having a race just as exciting as the one up front by the very, very end of this if they all stick together. Unfortunately, a director can only be in one place at one time because there are all sorts of draft trains doing the same thing to each other throughout this race.
I am super hopeful and super excited, there's no other word for it, to see these pack battles kind of conclude at the end of the race when the checkered flag decides to finally fly. With 5 left to go, we don't have to wait too much longer with the drivers putting down lap times that are in the 2:08s. We've got about 10 minutes of racing left to go, folks, but you're absolutely right. These teams are not really putting up team orders, let's say. They're really just going to go wheel to wheel through the entire back half of this racetrack and box in the guys behind. The time has concluded to where they thought that they were going to work together and push themselves forward. They're just going to go wheel to wheel racing for the remaining 5 that we have left to go. Looking at the front of the grid, it's still Messam, Gardia, and Tito in the 1, 2, 3 spot, coming down and towards corner number 1 for the 5th time of asking, Van Alas going through there into 9th place, a driver from the Netherlands now.
So these packs are certainly not going to converge any time soon. The gap now 2.6 seconds. So that's expanded quite a bit, and it's 5.8 seconds behind. Everybody's in their island and everybody's racing in their own way. Here's the largest pack again running down the straight. I'm curious as to whether German Sanchez is going to send it free. He is, but there's no way to take the turn with that much speed. Further up the field, there's another 3-car battle. Marcus Doma loses out a little bit to Martinez, but that's a thing that it wasn't quite caught, and that's definitely on me. But let me tell you, if you have too much speed and you're on the inside line, you're going to have problems at making the turn. So different things are being tried on different lines all of the time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I absolutely love about driving and racing other vehicles on a racetrack like Watkins Glen. As we look at the replay of German Sanchez cutting the chicane there, that'll definitely be a black flag penalty. Suarez, as he goes through the chicane, and he's going to definitely have a slowdown penalty for cutting that, but didn't want to go 3 wide with everybody, and self-preservation is the key there, and he's down into 11th place. But back to this battle between teammates, Alas and Sanchez going wheel to wheel just for funsies now, and boxing in the green machines behind them, that's for sure. But the green machine tucks in between them now, and we have a team sandwich.
I mean, they might also just be people that are charmed by that livery. That's Mike Van Alas ran very, very wide. There was car contact on the inside. I think it was German Suarez ran a little bit wide and made some wheel-to-wheel contact. He's going to pick it back up, but hopefully back in the pack at times. In time. This is a very, very curious battle for 4th, because these drivers are moving and weaving around the track a lot more than others. We're seeing Martinez go all the way wide to break toes down straights. Now we're going to play the game up the S's again, and they're going to slot it in perfectly free. Not quite, because Martinez gets a very, very good run out of the S's, and it sort of holds up Marcus Dormer's opportunity. He even tries to get it down the middle, but just decides to check up in time and live another day. Still, just the pack behind also flowing in. They're going to do it single file. And up here, Dormer, I think, lost momentum that time. And I always see someone drop a little bit back, and I get a little bit anxious to go lose it all again. But he stays with it. Everybody's learning how can I be in the right place. And it's about to be very, very, very important, because 2 laps to go is the peak of the pressure around here. Where you are on lap 11 sets you up for where you are on lap 12. Where you are on lap 12 determines the win sometimes you can win that lap from the lead, but it's very, very hard. People are going to be getting that run up the hill, and you're going to need to defend like your life depends on it. And where you are at the beginning of that lap is going to happen and be discovered at the end of the next one when the drivers cross the line for lap 11 out of 12.
Super mind games is the word I'm looking for. Mind games and strategy. Playing chess at over 100 miles an hour while you're negotiating 11 corners around Watkins Glen, folks. That's what the drivers are doing with 3 left to go. When they cross the line, it'll be just 2 left to go, trying to position themselves in the right place at the right time. It'll be extremely tricky to get these overtaking opportunities to present themselves without making any huge mistakes. The drivers really having to use the slipstream coming up the hill through the S's to get the momentum carried into the bus stop chicane. We're on board with Vlado Tito right now, and you can see his speed in the bottom right-hand corner, upwards of 100 miles an hour. He's looking to the outside line, the far line, trying to carry a lot more speed and momentum, or perhaps just trying to slip back and stay in P3 for now, letting Messam and Guardia battle it out amongst themselves while he positions himself for the white flag lap. Looking at Jeff Randall, the driver in 3rd position, and now going back to this 4x4 battle, further back on the grid, the battle between 8th down to 11th. Looking pretty tasty itself. And who was it that went off in the yellow Bumblebee car? That would be Smithhurst going off in the background there.
That was just 1 or 2. He had a battle, I believe, with Mike Van Alast, who also slipped back in his time. My little view of that just looks like it's an unfortunate tap. We may get a replay, but it's just one of those things that happens. Running down that back straight, Vlado Tito was well out of the draft. That's why he sort of stuck to a momentum line. There was no way he was catching. And if he remains that way going into the final lap, it's just going to be a bit of a disaster for him because he's still not making up the ground he needs to. Really needs to be within 2 tenths. He really needs to be sort of touching the car ahead. Here's the replay, the incident with Paul Smithhurst and Alast. It's just the car behind having a bit of overspeed and running into the back. You can push on a straight and you push through the turns. Bad things happen. The white flag lap is about to begin. And that makes one all-important straight and chicane. Paul Roches Gardia keeping a remarkable lead here. If he can somehow stay 5 tenths, he could lock this out from the lead without any of these games. Gareth Messam is going to try and brake as late and hard as he can to make up distance, and it's a little bit, it's half a tenth, but it's still not a spectacular run, and all 3 of the drivers are separated a little bit too far for this to build. Now 2 tenths, now he's building up momentum and speed. Now we have room for all 3 to go possibly 3 wide into the bus stop, and this is where you want to lead the race. Tito has a big run on the outside. Gardia left out to dry. Tito's not quite clear entering the bus stop though, able to hop the curb, wheel-to-wheel contact on the way out. Both cars in one piece. I think Messam's going to have the advantage, and he certainly will if Tito ends up batted off the track by that wheel.
Tiny little touch sent him awfully wide coming out of the bus stop chicane. That was a close call for sure, but Tito knew he had to lick the stamp and send it when he possibly could, all the way back from 3rd position. Knew where he wanted to be, well executed, just didn't work out the way he wanted to. Guardia and Messam battling it out right now. Messam's the driver that's gained 5 positions tonight, starting all the way down in 6th place. Now looking at the driver further back, it'll be a challenge for Guardia to try to get this one done on Messam coming down in towards the heel. This is the final lap of the event. Guardia looking like he wants to be on the attack, but there's nowhere to go right now except for the inside line that he opens up, and it just didn't work out in his favor. I thought he was absolutely going for it, but the door shut so quickly, I think he backed off.
Gardier gave him a little bit of a bump, just slightly off camera at the bottom of the hill, and I thought that was going to be the beginning of the end, but that was about all that she wrote. 3 drivers start the final lap. Believe it or not, they all finish on the top 3, but it's Garen Messam fastest across the line, leading that first pack to victory. Jeff Randall leads the second pack for P4, and Xavier Sanchez leads the third one for 7th across the line.
Amazing battles up and down the grid. Everywhere we looked, we almost needed more cameras to see all the battles. Even with the mini camera in the top right hand side of the screen, we were watching 2 battles go on simultaneously. It was absolutely phenomenal to see these skippies go around an iconic track like Watkins Glen, and you'll see skippies go all across the globe, and Skip Barber being one of the most prestigious and most successful racing schools in the world.
These cars certainly can provide a bit of a unique thrill around here that's unmatched nowadays on iRacing, but I've seen races go by a whole lot less clean than that here, so I'm pretty impressed by the end result here we got here on the track. We had those packs spread out, but we didn't get a field killer. We just got 1 or 2 small incidents. Philip Burke, last driver on the track, just buying us all the time in the world to cross the line. And we're going to have our finishing results up now in order to capture just quite what happened in that race. Gareth Messam leads over Paul Roches Gardia and Vlado Tito in 3rd. Next pack led by Jeff Randall over Marcus Dono, Ricardo Espinella Martinez. Then in 7th, 3rd pack, Xavier Sanchez leads over a 3-wide salute over the line. Gabriel Herrero, Gerard Burrell, and Mike Van Alath make up the top 10.
Coming home in 11th will be Paul Smithers, Rafael Rogers, Franco Alberti, Javier Gomez de Cos, German Suarez, Philip Burke, and Jose Pina round out the 17 drivers that competed in this series today.
Well, the drivers either love it or hate it around here. I've heard a little bit of both across the whole week, and that might be one of the cleanest last corners we've actually seen watching the week's races in these cars, but they did bring the good racing when it mattered here for this broadcast. So, any last thoughts on the way that one ran?
I can't wait for the next one, that's for sure. This was one of the most entertaining races I've seen all week long. The battles for the lead, the battles for the mid-pack constantly change. Everybody keeping in touch with each other and everybody staying super respectful.
Well, we made it past the halfway mark of the iRacing season by quite some margin. Week 8 is now complete, but there's still plenty more in the books. Next week, we're at Okayama, a certified free iRacing classic. Watch that back straight where the action will commence, but the rest of it is a tight side-by-side battling minefield. It will be here on the same time as ever. Remember, we have adjusted to daylight savings as we are using the same iRacing slot to determine this race. And there's still plenty more to come on the Global SimRacing Channel as well. Next up, we have Grand Prix Legends on Saturday at Phillip Island. How do you tackle that track with no downforce? But the killer weekend doesn't end there. IMSA Vintage goes to Barber. We've got the Classic Lotus Grand Prix 79s at Jerez and the MX-5 United Series at Rudskogen, which is a bit of a classic combination I quite love in my heart. Well, another week of Skip Barber never fails to impress around here. I've been Howie Bowes alongside Sagar Bakshi, directed by Christian Deploy. I'd like to thank you very, very much for watching and hope to see you on the channel soon.
This is iRacing.